Police find a note in the dead man's pocket that starts raising a lot of suspicions.
Gacy was convicted of murdering more people than anyone else in U.S. history.
Murdaugh is breaking his silence.
These three were convicted 29 years ago in the murders of 3 young boys.
Since the bodies of 11 women were found buried on the outskirts of Albuquerque, to this day, the infamous West Mesa murders remain unsolved.
Gacy was convicted of killing 33 young men and teenage boys.
Imagine this. You live in a state where the murder rate is so high that every step outside your door could be your last. From terrifying statistics to the shocking truth behind the bloodiest crimes, this top 10 will leave you stunned. Do you dare to face the dark side of America? One thing's for sure. After this video, you'll never look at these states the same way again. If you're as shocked as we are by these states, leave a comment and tell us which place you'd never dare visit. Don't forget to hit that like button. Every like helps us escape this murder list. And subscribe quickly, because the next video might be even more dangerous. Let's get started. Arkansas ranks number 10 among states with the highest murder rates, primarily due to a combination of poverty, gun ownership, and the spread of violence in both urban and rural areas. In 2024, Arkansas has a murder rate of 11.7 per 100,000 residents. This means a significant number of murders occur each year relative to the population. One of the most well-known murder cases from Arkansas is the case of the West Memphis Three. In 1993, 3 8-year-old boys, Stevie Branch, Michael Moore, and Christopher Byers, were found dead in a forest in West Memphis. 3 teenagers, Damian Echols, Jason Baldwin, and Jesse Miskelly Jr., were arrested and convicted of the murders, with Echols receiving the death penalty. However, there was much controversy surrounding the convictions, with claims that the boys were wrongfully accused due to their alternative appearance and interests. After years of legal battles, public pressure, and new forensic investigations, the West Memphis Three were released in 2011 through an Alford plea. This means they maintain their innocence, but acknowledge that there was enough evidence for a conviction. This case gained national and international attention through documentaries like Paradise Lost, and remains a symbol of potential miscarriages of justice. Tennessee ranks number 9 among the states with the most murders in the United States, mainly due to high crime rates in cities like Memphis and Nashville. The murder rate in Tennessee in 2024 is 12.2 per 100,000 residents. Memphis is one of the most dangerous cities in the U.S. and significantly contributes to the state's murder rate. The number of violent crimes, including murders, is much higher in this city than the national average. In 2021, Memphis recorded one of the highest murder totals in its history, with over 300 cases. One of the most infamous murder cases in Tennessee is the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. On April 4, 1968, the civil rights leader was shot on the balcony of the Lorraine Motel in Memphis. James Earl Ray was arrested and convicted of the murder. But doubts have always existed about his involvement, and conspiracy claims have persisted. This murder shocked the world and had a profound impact on U.S. history and the civil rights movement. King's assassination remains one of the most talked about cases of the 20th century and is still a subject of discussion and investigation. Maryland ranks number 8 among the states with the highest murder rates in the U.S., especially due to violence in cities like Baltimore. In 2024, Maryland has a murder rate of 12.2 per 100,000 residents. This figure is significantly higher than the national average, primarily influenced by the murder rates in urban areas. The city of Baltimore plays a major role in the state's high murder rate. It is one of the most dangerous cities in the U.S., with a murder rate of over 50 per 100,000 residents in some years. In 2021, more than 300 murders were recorded, the highest number in nearly a decade. One of the most notorious murder cases in Maryland is the Beltway snipers case in 2002. John Allen Muhammad and his younger partner Lee Boyd Malvo carried out a series of shootings from a vehicle, killing 10 people in the Washington, D.C. area, including Maryland. This case caused widespread fear in the region, as the shooters targeted random people without a predictable pattern. Eventually, both perpetrators were arrested. Muhammad was executed in 2009, while Malvo is serving a life sentence. This case drew global attention due to the nature of the crimes and the extensive investigation to stop the shooters. Illinois ranks number 7 among states with the highest murder rates in the U.S., primarily due to the high murder rate in Chicago. In 2024, Illinois has a murder rate of 12.3 per 100,000 residents. Chicago, the state's largest city, plays a central role in this figure. Chicago has long been one of the most violent cities in the United States. In 2022, over 600 murders were recorded in the city, with a murder rate that sometimes exceeds 25 per 100,000 residents, well above the national average. This makes Chicago responsible for a significant portion of the murders in Illinois. One of the most infamous murder cases from Illinois is that of John Wayne Gacy, also known as the Killer Clown. Gacy was convicted of the murder of 33 young men and boys in the 1970s. He lured many of his victims to his home, where he killed them and buried them in the crawl space of his house. Gacy's crimes were uncovered in 1978, and he was sentenced to death in 1980. He was eventually executed in 1994. The John Wayne Gacy case sent shockwaves across the U.S. and remains one of the most notorious serial killer cases to this day. Missouri ranks number 6 among states with the highest murder rates in the U.S., especially due to violence in urban areas like St. Louis and Kansas City. The murder rate in Missouri is 12.4 per 100,000 residents in 2024. St. Louis and Kansas City are two of the most dangerous cities in the United States. In 2021, St. Louis was considered one of the most violent cities, with a murder rate of over 60 per 100,000 residents, significantly contributing to the state's overall high murder rate. One of the most notorious murder cases from Missouri is the case of Pam Hupp, a woman involved in the 2011 murder of Betsy Faria. Her husband, Russ Faria, was initially wrongfully convicted of the murder, but later exonerated after it became clear that Hupp was a key suspect. In 2016, Hupp killed another man, Louis Gumpenberger, in an attempt to cover up her involvement in Faria's murder. Hupp's case attracted national attention and became the subject of documentaries and podcasts. In 2021, Pam Hupp was officially charged with the murder of Betsy Faria. South Carolina ranks number 5 among states with the most murders in the United States, with a murder rate of 13.4 per 100,000 residents in 2024. This is much higher than the national average and points to ongoing problems with violent crime in the state. Both urban areas like Charleston and Columbia and rural parts of the state have significant problems with violent crime. The violence is not limited to large cities, but is also prevalent in smaller communities. One of the most infamous murder cases from South Carolina is the case of Alex Murdaugh. In 2021, prominent attorney Alex Murdaugh was accused of murdering his wife Maggie and their son Paul on their estate in Moselle, South Carolina. This case attracted national attention due to the complexity and background of the Murdaugh family, who were an influential legal dynasty in the state. Murdaugh was also involved in several other legal and financial crimes, further putting the case in the spotlight. In March 2023, Murdaugh was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for the murders. New Mexico ranks number 4 among states with the most murders in the United States, with a murder rate of 15.3 per 100,000 residents in 2024. This makes it one of the most dangerous states, particularly due to concentrated violence in certain areas. Albuquerque, the state's largest city, has been dealing with high levels of violence. In 2021, over 120 murders were recorded in Albuquerque alone, contributing significantly to the state's high murder rate. One of the most notorious murder cases from New Mexico is the case of the West Mesa murders. In 2009, the remains of 11 women were discovered in a desolate area of Albuquerque known as the West Mesa. These victims had all gone missing between 2001 and 2005. While the bodies were found, the identity of the killer or killers has never been established. The case remains unsolved to this day and has attracted much attention due to the scale of the murders and the tragic circumstances of the victims, many of whom were involved in the sex industry. Alabama ranks number 3 among states with the most murders in the United States, with a murder rate of 15.9 per 100,000 residents in 2024. This is significantly higher than the national average, and multiple factors contribute to this high murder rate. Cities like Birmingham and Montgomery play a substantial role in the state's high murder rate. Birmingham, in particular, has one of the highest crime rates in the country. One of the most infamous murder cases from Alabama is the case of Nathaniel Woods. In 2004, 3 police officers were murdered in Birmingham, and Woods was charged with complicity, despite not being the shooter. He was sentenced to death in 2005, a sentence that sparked much controversy due to doubts about his involvement and whether he received a fair trial. In March 2020, Woods was executed, despite a wave of public protests and calls for clemency, including from notable figures such as Martin Luther King III. The case was seen as a tragic example of possible judicial errors. Louisiana ranks number 2 among states with the most murders in the United States, with a murder rate of 21.3 per 100,000 residents in 2024. This makes it one of the most dangerous states in the country, particularly in urban areas like New Orleans and Baton Rouge. New Orleans and Baton Rouge are the 2 cities with the main violence hotspots in Louisiana. New Orleans has been notorious for its high murder rates for years, with more than 250 murders in 2022, one of the highest per capita rates in the country. One of the most notorious murder cases in Louisiana is the case of Zachary Bowen and Addie Hall. In 2006, Zachary Bowen was arrested after killing his girlfriend Addie Hall and then mutilating her body in their apartment in the French Quarter of New Orleans. The murder shocked the city, particularly because the couple had been known as survivors of Hurricane Katrina, and their relationship had been romanticized in the media. Bowen committed suicide after the murder, further intensifying attention on this tragic case. Mississippi ranks number 1 among states with the most murders in the United States, with a shocking murder rate of 23.7 per 100,000 residents in 2024. This is significantly higher than the national average and is due to various socioeconomic and structural factors in the state. Mississippi has one of the highest poverty rates in the United States. According to statistics, many residents live below the poverty line, often leading to higher crime rates, including murders. One of the most notorious murder cases from Mississippi is the murder of Emmett Till in 1955. Emmett Till, a 14-year-old African-American boy from Chicago, was murdered in Money, Mississippi, after being accused of offending a white woman. He was kidnapped, tortured, and eventually murdered by 2 white men, who were later acquitted despite overwhelming evidence of their guilt. This case attracted national and international attention and is often considered a turning point in the American civil rights movement. The brutal murder of Emmett Till and the subsequent acquittal of the perpetrators led to massive outrage and served as a catalyst for the growth of the civil rights movement in the U.S. That was our top 10 states with the highest murder rates in America. Thank you for watching. Now it's up to you. Do you still dare to travel to any of these states? Don't forget to subscribe for more thrilling content and hit that like button if this gave you chills. Until next time, if you dare.
Hey!